surprise part 2 if you were here for the tier list. And if you weren't, to explain, we weren't expecting this to be a two-parter.
We went a little off the rails during the 10 movies, and it took us like 3 hours real time, and it went off the rails quick.
At this point, I'm just happy we have not talked at all, and we're not going to, about tier listing the Transformers movies, because the Fast X one, Brad, I think rightfully was like, yeah, we'll be done with the tier list of the Fast movies in like 10, 20 minutes, that'll be good, and then we'll jump into Fast X. We spent an hour on that tier list before we got into the review.
9 movies, or no, 10 movies 10, with Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad.
And then with this one, we did 3 hours just for the tier list. So if we did Transformers, it would be 5 hours of the tier list, 4 hours and 55 minutes of that, me just being, I wish Michael Bay had quit sooner.
All we need to do for Transformers is like, is this movie good or is this movie bad? Just 2 tiers. Watch it or don't watch it. I mean, that'd be easy.
It would end up being, for me, the first one, On the Edge, and all the others, including 4 and 5, which I have not seen, being in the poison area, and having to admit that I cried in one of the Michael Bay films, and then Bumblebee right above it.
I've not seen Bumblebee, but I've seen 4 and 5, and with Marky Mark, and I don't know, those aren't bad. I didn't not like them, if that makes sense.
Well, to not get in the way of this review, really quickly, all I'll say is easily, and I haven't seen 4 and 5, but easily Bumblebee takes the cake without being flawless. Like,
okay.
Basically they copied E.T., but gave no forward momentum, kind of, but you don't really feel it because you're just like, I'm just enjoying myself. Thank God. Thank God I'm enjoying myself. But it's kind of like, we'll all hang out. And then the Decepticons showed up.
So I heard that Bumblebee, that movie had a banging soundtrack, but not as banging as Across the Spiderverse. Transition. Boom.
Great transition. And I think you could Mad Libs any other movie in that front spot, besides maybe some Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. Great start, because I wanted to talk about the music. But before then, I want to say Spot, the villain of the week. There is a giveaway that's being announced on Wednesday the 14th. So if you want to get in on that giveaway, click the link for the Instagram post on the right at the top and follow those instructions to get in. But if you want that, it's I think actually pretty cool Spot toy, which is why I wanted to give it away. It's Spot, but also with the spots and his like disjointed arms separated. So if you want that, it's totally free, because you can be entered in the giveaway completely free. But anyway, the music. So I have meditated on this a lot, because by now I've seen it 5 times. And if I had an extra AMC A-list this week, I would have seen it again today just to refresh. But
just to refresh. Holy cow.
Because I saw it yesterday, the last time. It's been forever. But I heard a lot of reactions saying this one, like, the music was great in the first movie, but this one, like, just nailed it, just found the perfect combination to get all the music in. And I'm interested in your thoughts on it, but I was thinking about that because in this movie, when the music comes, like 3 different parts, I felt, ooh, we just vibing. Like when Peter's sitting down on it or laying down in his bed and Gwen comes through the wormhole, that just felt like vibes. And there was earlier moments and later, I mean, when they're swinging, that feels like vibes. So
yeah, that's what I was going to mention, is when they're swinging through and just talking back and forth and kind of just hanging out before they go up to the party. It just feels like 2 friends hanging out, and there's just a soundtrack in the background that is just like fits that perfectly for 2 friends catching up and kind of explaining everything, and it worked out really well. the music was done by Daniel Pemberton.
Which he did an interview with the Real Bend podcast that I would recommend anyone do. Apparently, this movie, of course, had a shit ton of animators, but they only had him and his music assistant for the whole film. And he said and he's been working on this film for years, I think he said. And he said the last film was him waking up early, staying till midnight, going home, sleeping, coming back, the whole last month. Tell me if you agree with this, because for me, I was thinking like, okay, so there are some scenes that like are good, and then imagining the filmmakers going through and be like, what song should we put on this? Say, ooh, this is the banger. This is the like song that, ooh, that's perfect or really great for this scene. Then there are times when like they start with the song. It's like, let's model the scene to be with it. And then of course there are times when there's score, like original music made. The music in this film felt like a fourth option, where it was like, all right, we're looking for the score, and then holy shit, this music just exists to be that score. And by the way, I know that in the first movie, like they made original songs for the movie, and I'm sure they did it again here. But like,
and they remix songs too.
Yeah, but like that first movie felt like that first option, the first or second option, where it's like, we're looking for the music and this is the perfect song, or we're starting with the music and we're building the scene. Is anything I'm saying, does it even make sense? And if it does, did it hit you like this is somehow music that existed to be score and it's perfect?
Yeah, I would say everything blended seamlessly. Like there was times where I was watching the movie and just all of a sudden started bumping, and I don't know why. I'm just like nodding my head, like with the music, with the score, and just you forget that it's a part of the movie. Everything is so encompassed into one that it was just like it was the movie. There's songs that'll do that to you, that'll take you out of a time and place and put you somewhere else. It was almost like that, but the time and place was that movie, and I'm not 100% sure because I haven't gone back and listened to the soundtrack or the score. I don't know if I could listen to that without being put right back into the movie and being put right back in the scenes. Kind of like the intro to Guardians 2 when they're fighting that big worm thing.
Oh yeah,
where they steal the batteries. Like I can listen to that song. Was it? I can hear the song, but it's not Mr. Brightside. But it's not Mr. Brightside.
All right. While you look that up,
there's that song.
Yeah, if you want to look that up, I'll give a little story about that. I bought tickets for me and my friend, or I organized that to see it with friends at IMAX, and a friend and his wife were running just a little bit late, and they came right after Baby Groot's dance to that song. I was like, hey, you just missed the best part of the entire movie. So you have like as a joke, but also as a like, you need to go see this again because you want to see that sequence.
I would assume it's Spirit in the Sky. No, that's not it. Well.
Spirit in the Sky, I think, is when Baby Groot is on the glass in the Milano, and then they lift off.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear the song. Yeah, I mean, I can hear the song in my head, but yeah, I mean, but so that's a song that I listen to and I think of that movie.
Yeah,
where if I were to listen to the soundtrack of this, I mean, I would just be visualizing this movie the whole way through, and it almost feels like in Guardians instance, it's a very good song with a very good movie.
Yeah.
Where this is a very good song and movie combo that I don't know if I would change anything about that. So most of the score and most of the music in this thing is fantastic. I would say if I was going to score this against no pun intended, against the first one, I would rate this just a little bit higher than the last one. The last movie was really good when it came to scoring, when it came to music. I would say that this one just was a little bit better. I think some of the things that they did really well with that was also the English punk rock Spider-Man. When he came on, and they kind of had like a old school punk Sex Pistols type of sound when he comes on screen and stuff like that was pretty awesome.
you rate it overall a little bit better, or in the
Yes.
music specifically? Okay.
Well, I'm saying in the music specifically, in this category of music, I would rate it just a little bit better than the first movie.
All right, so I've got two quick things. One is I know exactly what you meant about being in the theater. I should have written it down or something, but there of those three vibe moments, I know that one of them makes me, I don't know how to describe this. All right, imagine you're in the Dolby seats and it's reclined back. By the way, no, I shouldn't say it. All right, I'll have to say it now. But the best way to see this movie, I think, is like the second from front row in a Dolby theater, just reclined and looking up. But I didn't want to say that because now, today when we're recording it, at least in my area, Transformers took all the Dolby screens. And I'm like, son of a... Ah! But there would be one song where like I'd be bopping my whole body, like literally from my ankles to my shoulders, just like bouncing in the seat, and then another song where I'm just like grooving my head and neck and shoulders. I don't know why it just hit every time it hit that specific reaction in my body. I don't know. But the second thing was the animator, or one of the main animators, was talking on Twitter about Spider-Punk, is he? And saying that, like, while most of the movie is animated on twos, which means that if it's going at 24 frames a second, which it is, every character is going at 12 frames a second. So every other frame they move. And I think I heard that Into the Spiderverse, Miles starts that way, but then he goes on ones, which is he's moving at 24 frames a second, meaning he's moving smoother in the third act. So I don't know what his animation is in this movie. Never mind, I'm going down a different side. Anyway, they said that I think Spider-Punk is not animated on twos, he's animated on threes, and his guitar and outline is animated on ones, and then some other part of him is either animated on fours or twos, literally just to make him even more punk rock. Like, he won't even conform to
all the rules of the establishment.
Yeah, and there was another animator who responded to that. It was like, yeah, I was in charge of, I think, the guitar, and he started adding all this weird shit that just would make it more complicated down the line. So he's like, maybe this will just be taken out for ease, but they loved it so much they kept it. So it was like, these movies, Sony should be paying everyone double, because and I think after these two movies they will be with the box office that it's making, but these are movies that are just fueled by passion. I'm sure people worked more hours off the clock, which is not good, technically speaking, or morally, I guess, just because they had passion and they wanted to put that passion into this. Like, I mean, even the musician, again, I'm going to say Real Blend, that interview, there's also an interview with Lord and Miller on there, but it is just so fascinating to hear him. And I'm not a music guy. Like, I'll sit me down and play Taylor Swift's Love Story, and I'll enjoy myself. Not as much as this score, don't worry, but I will enjoy myself just well enough as I would listening to like Beethoven's Fifth. Like, I can watch Tar and just key into that, and then I can watch Pitch Perfect and be like, I mean, Pitch Perfect is a masterpiece, let's all be honest, and just be like, how dare you?
No.
How dare you? I went into that movie.
Hell no.
No, I gotta say this. I went into that movie I didn't see it in theaters because I was obsessed with Glee at the time. I was like, psh, they just cash grabbing Glee. Psh, they wish they could be as cool as Glee. And then I heard so much about it that I think I redboxed it and watched it at home. And they're like, I saw the sun. I'm like, okay, all right, they're doing good singing. And then just a vomit volcano out of one of them. I was like, to quote this movie, I retract my previous statement. And I was in it. How dare you? That's almost as much of a crime to the internet as you saying that Spider-Man 2 is bad.
No, better movie than that, right? Would be Will Ferrell in Eurovision, the song contest.
I wouldn't say personally that is as structurally good as a movie, but it's amazing and it did make me cry. It is powerful. I think their grades would end up evening out because, of course, a Will Ferrell movie's got a little more fat on it, and that's not body shaming. He's got a beautiful bod. But like every Will Ferrell, even Spirited, which I love, and I've cried so many times, and I'm like, everybody should watch. I'm like, it has his cake and eats it too. This is not a movie that's gonna go and be like, you are structurally perfect.
Spirited, which is a movie that we have reviewed in the past. If you want to go back towards the end of December, early January, and find that.
Dang, Brad's got this podcast down like I've got seasons 1 and 2 of Ted Lasso. And what was their name on Discord? I'm going to shout them out. Has on it's about Peacemaker. I'll get it. Nope, I'm going to be slow with it. Making noise to make it somehow interesting, but it's not.
My Discord likes to be dumb.
What?
My Discord likes to be dumb. It freezes up and then it'll jump to some random spot and I gotta keep scrolling and then I'll do it again. So my computer, yeah, I'm making noise. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I appreciate it. Torsix Flag apparently has watched Peacemaker 45 times. So
no, Ted Lasso 45 times.
No, you'll see. You'll see.
Okay.
This is a recent conversation. I just wanted to shout it out because it was relevant.
I thought it was Ted Lasso 45 times, and then maybe I misread the conversation earlier.
Yeah, I think I've done probably 35 to 40 times at this point. But all right. So I actually want to ask this. Now that you've seen the movie, what did you think about the trailers?
I still haven't yet to see the trailers. I have no interest in seeing the trailers. For a movie that I get excited about, I try not to watch the trailers. Sometimes it's really hard when you go into movie theaters and they play the trailer for you and you're just like, I was kind of trying to stay away from that.
I've definitely done the earphones in just preparing for Guardians and Across the Spiderverse.
Yeah, so I've not watched a single trailer on this at all. Even after seeing the movie, I still haven't gone back to watch the trailer. Just because I know it'll hype me up to watch the movie again. I can't. I don't have the time to go watch it a second time.
Touche. All right, so I have watched the trailers. It's interesting because when you do have it at your disposal or whatever, it's interesting to go back and see what animation differences there are. Like,
I assume there's going to be several, and I assume there's going to be some story tweaks because there almost always are. I mean, just go back to like Black Adam, the tinting on it. Everybody got an uproar about the tinting on the trailer, so they untinted it and for the movie. So I assume that they're going to make little tweaks.
I mean, the obvious one is the first teaser we ever got was Miles going through to the India in that first world or whatever after Gwen, but Spider-Man 2099 like tackles him. Obviously doesn't happen, but the two moments that I think are funniest in there, and I haven't even gotten to my point, but when the guy says there's nowhere else to run. My bad, guys. There was somewhere to run. None of the people in the background are there at all. It's just him. And I think when I rewatched it, I'm pretty sure that nobody moves. So they were like, okay, we got to get a still image drawn in the background. And then when Miles runs over the webbing of the Spider-Woman and then it all collapses, instead, when everybody goes up, it like bounces everybody up, which doesn't, I'm sure they changed that.
Like very cartoony.
Yeah, I got. They were probably like that. Those physics don't work. But the weirdest part is that most of the trailers are focusing on the big emotional moment in the third act, or it has to be the third act because the action sequence. But of Miles like drawing all the spider people away from the go home machine. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to criticize them too hard for not making it clear to part one. They should have. I mean, I get it, because apparently having a title that says part one will make you less money, like tangibly, so they tend to change it. And I think they did a good enough job of making this kind of a standalone-ish, and we'll get into that later. But like, focus on the spot. Focus on the first part of the movie. It was like this is one of those times where they showed you the whole movie, but unlike Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, you didn't know it. So in terms of that, of just like relying heavily on all the third act shit, totally get everyone who's like, what the fuck? This is a part one? Because
yeah. I mean, there was several, that comment was made several times walking out of the theater, that they were like, oh, I can't believe it ended right there. How I didn't know it was going to be a part two, or there was somebody else that made a comment, something similar to, that they felt like it was an incomplete movie. So
yeah, just that's all I'm saying. Just like, if you're gonna surprise people unintentionally with a part one, don't reveal most of the emotional parts in the last act of the movie. The only way they could have been worse is if they showed the other Miles Morales, which, by the way, I found out was voiced by a different actor.
Really?
Yeah, I just figured it was Shameik Moore saying, adding a little extra Hispanic accent, because of course if his dad died 10 years ago or something, he'd pick up more from his mom. But no, it's a different actor who you'd recognize. I'm gonna look that up really quick, but that's all I wanted to say. Like, that's really freaking weird for them to focus so much. It was kind of like, you know what, it makes perfect sense, because it was kind of like the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they kept showing that ending fucking fight with the Rhino. Stop showing that if you're not gonna show any more.
So I don't know if you picked this up or not. You probably did over the courses of 4, 5, 6, 9 watches. That we now have an actor that has been in 3 Marvel movies and played a solid main character in all 3 movies. All three characters in different
3 different
Marvel
properties, are you saying? Or would
yes,
in
3 different Marvel properties.
All right, let me think about this because I'm about to look at the cast list to talk about that other Spider-Man actor. But all right, Mahershala Ali. He was in. Okay, that's not all right. So I'm gonna keep going through it, because the first one I was gonna say is Brian Tyree Henry, who I think I previously said Brian Tyree Henson on accident, because he's in this and in Into the Spider-Verse, and he's in Eternals. But Mahershala Ali is. Oh wait, he's not yet. Well, technically, he was in. His voice is in the post-credit scene of Eternals, but he's going to be in Blade. He was also in the first season of Luke Cage, and he was Uncle Aaron in this one. But let me keep thinking. All right, main character. Oh, Haley Steinfeld, probably. No, because she's in Hawkeye and this. Shameik Moore has not been in the MCU that I know. Rio's no. Well, no, I don't remember. The actor who plays Indian Spider-Man was in Deadpool 2 and 1, which is technically now MCU, but that was Marvel. What else could he have been in? I don't know if it's Taika, because I don't know if Taika Waititi was in this, but he was in... No, Green Lantern was DC.
We're getting deep in this. We're getting deep.
Nick Cage, no, he's not. Let's see. Let me just go. I'm gonna cheat now, because I'm wasting too much time of people, but I want to get the actor's name who was the other Miles, and then I'm just gonna go down the cast list and see if I can figure it out. Cheating. Okay, Jarrell Jerome was Miles G. Morales, and he was in Moonlight, and I think, did it say that he's in something? He was in Moonlight. I'm not going to present it, but you'd recognize him if you check. All right, let me look through. So
This name should pop pretty quick. As soon as you see this name, it should pop. Like he was say
no more. Say I'll get not Jake Johnson. Oh, Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
Wait. All right. So wait, he was in Moon Knight. He's in this and a third one. Wait, let me.
He's in a series that you really like. You had a podcast.
Marvel.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, because they would.
Well, the most boring X-Men movie doesn't.
Yeah,
that doesn't.
But he's the main villain in Apocalypse.
He is
Apocalypse.
So a buddy of mine will say, like, he even bought my ticket, I think, to that movie, and the whole movie I was just like this until the speed sequence. I was like, and then after that I was like this until Quicksilver almost said that he was Magneto's son, and I was like, couldn't even get that right. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, so now he's been three major characters across three major characters in three different Marvel series. Boom. I mean, I think that's pretty awesome. I think he did a really good job as Moon Knight, and I think he was the Spider-Man 2099 or whatever.
Yeah.
In this movie. He was the head guy. I don't know what you want to call him. Leader of the clan.
Oh, like the Dumbledore?
Yeah. Well, he's like the one pulling all the strings in the movie.
Yeah. Which, all right, let's get into that. Because
I wouldn't classify that as a bad guy.
I don't know yet, though, because this is the thing. When he was talking about his what would you call it? When he destroyed his world, that world that he inhabited, you see people blinking away. And then in India, you see a black hole start at the bottom. And so there's not a consistency there in terms of breaking the canon. Also, I wonder if we're going to find out that it's not actually canon, this is all just some structural thing that he's invented, especially since they mentioned Doctor Strange and they're never like, you've broken the there's not going to be consistency with that, or even other stuff like Loki and their time variance society or whatever, TV authority. Like, what just happened right before that black hole happened? Alchemax got destroyed. Like, what if that was just because of the collider? It was a new black hole, or even like maybe the collider going off caused the black hole because it was a fucking spot.
Yeah.
Or if there is something that would break the canon, maybe it's just not always Spider-Man. Maybe it could be anything. Because obviously we saw in the Multiverse of Madness that some worlds can just get destroyed because of something's off. But like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think so far out of the majority of the time travel multiverse movies, I would say that I like this way the best. I think this way is the cleanest so far that we've gotten. Because with any time travel movie, there's so many different like flaws, and they just kind of like give you the gloss over and just like, all right, accept it. Here's the rules and accept it.
And are you including Everything Everywhere All at Once in that? It's fine because that's kind of a chaos. That's a bunch of chaos.
Yeah, it's like the chaos version of this.
Yeah.
But I think this movie does time travel multiverse very, very well, and very, very clear, and very, very understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's still going to be some flaws and some loopholes in it a little bit. Being able to travel in between worlds with the bracelet and stuff like that to not mess up anything, despite you telling everybody what you're doing. And there's one person there. All the Spider-Mans know each other, and then some of them don't hang out at their home world. They hang out at HQ or whatever. So there are some like little hiccups and like tweaks in how you can do it. But I think this movie does it very well, very clean. Very understanding for somebody who doesn't really have an idea, or maybe didn't watch a bunch of time travel movies or multiverse movies, that knows kind of how this stuff's supposed to work. So, but I think they do a really clean, simple, understanding way of doing this. and kind of a clear way of how they travel in between worlds. And the go home machine I thought was pretty ingenious too, to kind of help out.
All right, so let me ask you this: how old do you think Hobie Brown is?
Who's Hobie Brown?
Spider-Punk.
Oh, I'm gonna go like mid 50s, because I'm gonna say he was like a big fan of like the Sex Pistols in the day.
Wait, the Spider-Punk, like mid 50s,
Yeah.
just because of his even with that skin.
Yeah.
Okay, I asked because
I'm gonna say he's got really good skin.
Okay. This is gonna be really awkward when I get to the topic. But basically, I thought he was like mid-20s, maybe 30 something. Mainly because when I found out who he was voiced by, I think it was Daniel Kaluuya, and I found out it was Daniel Kaluuya, the Get Out guy, and he was in Black Panther 1.
Okay.
Would you turn against me, my love, for Wakanda? Without question. So I was like, okay, he's more adult, and like I think the first time we see his face is black and white, so I guess age could be harder. But when I asked Maddie, my daughter, she said she thought 18, which was like, oh, okay, yeah, he just has big hair or something, or like Spider-Man. The reason I'm asking is because when they're talking about Gwen like leaving stuff at his place, including toothbrushes, and feeling comfortable enough to steal his shoes, essentially, I was like, okay, so we're just establishing they've done something physical, probably, it's
or at least really, really, really close friends, if not.
Yeah, they're either the closest, if everyone is cisgendered, because there is a lot of trans coloring in Gwen's world, and she has a trans kid protect trans kids sign in her room. If we're assuming everyone's cis, okay, it still makes sense to me. I was just like, wait, maybe I need to ask this. If we're pretending everyone's cis, either they are the closest male-female friends in the whole dang world, and they've known each other 3 months, or something's happened, and he's like, yeah, babe, whenever you come over. I can't do a British accent, especially not a Cockney accent. I got no Scooby-Doo about how to do that, but I think if he's supposed to be 18, I personally love how it turned out. I know some review talked about how others had mentioned it was a love triangle, which I think we can agree it's not a love triangle if people don't care, if they're not being adversarial. It's just a love or a relationship history.
Or options.
Like if Hobie Brown is supposed to be 18 and Miles is 15, with Gwen, she's 15 months older based on the info in the first one. So she's either 17, or based on when their birthdays would be in the year, throughout the year, she could technically be 18, or no? Yeah. I don't know. She could be 17 or one other. I'm like, okay, I like that. Like, because they haven't seen each other in 18 months, because Miles said he's been a Spider-Man for 1 year and 6 months, right?
I don't remember exactly.
Something like that. They haven't seen each other for over a year. I like that that we're not imagining that she put her whole life, her physical life on hold, with the idea that, well, yes, of course I will never see him again in my whole dang life. But on the 1,000,000 to 1 chance that I somehow do, I should save myself for all of time.
Well, especially considering she was specifically told that she could not go to his world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at that point, like when your bosses are basically saying you will never go there, I mean, you can't really put your entire life on hold.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing as before. She just knows that the technology exists. So, I like that. And as far as like, I think ultimately the only two things Miles ever says against Hobie Brown are, I didn't know much about you because she's barely mentioned you. Like, that's the closest thing to being like an insecure guy jab. And he quickly gets over that. And he also said, this guy's killing me. But that's right after Hobie Brown's like, I don't believe in structures or whatever. He's like, but you're in a band. I don't believe in consistency. Like, on a first watch, I didn't want to be like, Jesus Christ, this guy's a lot. But
yeah, he definitely was a lot, because I've only seen it once. He was definitely like conforming, but not conforming, saying he wasn't conforming, but he was actually being part of the team. He was helping out Spider-Man 2099, but also helping out Miles Morales too. Yeah. And he was kind of playing both sides of the fence.
And we'll get to why it still works with the punk rock thing, but I really like Hobie with him with Miles, because the first thing, and I checked, first thing he ever says to Miles is, next time use the whole hands. Like, he's being helpful. And then I forget what else he says to him, but after that, the next thing Miles said, or after all of that, when they're in the elevator going to Nueva York, he takes off the mask. Miles is, I remember. He said, no, Miles doesn't want to go to we're too cool to go to the office or whatever. Like, he's trying to support Miles and being an independent person and not conforming. So then when they're in the elevator, Miles is just in love with him, rightfully so. Where he's like, how are you even cooler under the mask? So I really like...
Sorry, bruv.
Yeah. I love that we didn't do, even for 2 seconds, because we did have the one comment of, she barely even mentioned you. Not even for 2 seconds do we have some guy conflict. And even earlier than that, when Gwen is talking about her and Peter, or not Peter, wow, her and Miles, I was thinking Spider-Man. She's like, you and I are different. Like, some things, honestly, like life, we can have breaks between our interactions with certain people, and we can have physical relationships with others, and it's fine. But then there's just something different. I just liked it.
I mean, I will say this movie has a really good cast, like a real good core group of people between, well, just the main group, I guess, would be Miles, Gwen, and Tobey would kind of be the main three for the majority of the movie. I really, as good as those guys are, and then Parker B comes back, and then we kind of get his daughter and stuff like that. But I think the core group of people in the first movie was really was slightly better than this movie, because they were just so good at introducing that whole cast and characters between Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Pig, Peter B. Parker. I think that core group was a lot better, or not a lot better, was better than this movie's core group of people, if I'm comparing the two.
I personally don't know what my opinion on that is, because I know that in my mind with the first one, I was like, oh, wow, you directors and Lord and Miller and writers and everyone found a really creative way to listen to Avi Arad's direction to shove extra spider people in for toys. Like, you did an elegant job with Peter or Penny, with Spider-Ham, Peter Porker, and Spider-Man Noir. Elegant way, but I don't know if I connected to those three characters, because they were quickly introduced and they didn't have the same screen time as the other three.
You did with Peter B, obviously. You did get some backstory with them. That core group, the way that they interacted with each other, I thought was slightly better. not to take away from this movie was really fun. When Gwen came back and they do the catch up scene and everything, and then meeting Hobie, and then the whole HQ scenes and stuff like that, where they redid the Spider-Man meme to even more of an extent than Into the Spider-Verse, or no, not Into the Spider-Verse, the Far From Home, when they have all three Spider-Mans partying at each other.
Oh yeah. What I will, I think I know what well, this is one theory. The first film, besides once they're after Alchemax, once Doc Ock is chasing them in that movie, it might be the fact that those three characters, Spider-Gwen, Peter B. Parker, and Miles, all stick together consistently until then we add the other three, and then they always stick together consistently. Whereas in this film, it's much more like the first 20 minutes are Gwen, and then the next 15 minutes is Miles alone. And then it's him and Gwen for the rest of the film. Sure, they're consistent, but then they are with Indian Spider-Man, which I want to talk about in the development process. It was really cool. But then they add Hobie in for a little bit, then goodbye Indian Spider-Man, and it's Hobie for a bit with Gwen and Miles, and then what is it? Miguel comes in, so they talk. They do the explainy thing, and goodbye Hobie again. So or Peter B comes in, and then goodbye Hobie, and so I think. Yeah, I agree with you structurally. Definitely, everyone has a lot more time in the first film to have chemistry with everybody, and this one it's more inconsistent. Like they don't have I think we'll get that in the third one, which will be great. 13 freaking characters, or however many were on that rooftop at the end when she's like, I made my own band. Want to join? That's gonna be magic. But yeah, so I would say this one can't be, but I think I liked the variety of these more, maybe. I don't know. I'm just still in love with this film. Okay, so the Indian Spider-Man. I think the animators said, hey, maybe we can make Indian Spider-Man cool. And then they talked to the actors, like, what do you want to contribute? And he contributed the chai tea and non-bread stuff. Like, yeah. What? And even I think I talked about how in this film, Rio is like a full character instead of just a really good supporting character-esque. And that also came out of her own talk with her mother. She was like, what'd you think of Into the Spider-Verse? She was like, really disappointing because you weren't a full character. What, Puerto Rican, right? Her character's Puerto Rican. You weren't full. You gotta. And she's like, "What do you want me to do, mommy?" And it's like, go to like, you want me to tell Phil to do better? And she's like, yes. she. I think I don't blame her because the rest of Hollywood has proven that that's what you should do, is just keep your mouth shut. If you're a minority and your boss is white, which Phil Lord and Chris Miller are definitely white, but she went to him and she was like, what about this? And he was like, let's do it. She's like, really? It's like if 10% of people in the audience get it, it's worth it. I don't get it. I'm a white boy. And I've heard, before I heard that interview where she talked about that, I'd heard like 3 or 4 different people be like, and they included the like Puerto Rican permission thing, which I don't know. I don't know what that is because I'm a dumb white boy. But I just love the collaborative process on these films so freaking much.
Was there more Spanglish in this movie? I don't remember in the last movie there being as much English and Spanish mix, because his mom speaks a lot of Spanish. You, as somebody who doesn't speak Spanish, doesn't speak a lot of Spanish, I can still get the grasp of what she's saying based on Miles's responses and kind of her body language and everything. So I can kind of understand, but I don't remember there being as much like Spanglish in the last movie.
I would say, so I think Miles is with his family for, again, 15 minutes before he goes into the other Earth. So I don't know if throughout the entire, and that's the last time he sees Rio, like his Rio, until for the rest of the film. So I would say there might be more Spanglish in the first film, but per minute with mom, like cumulatively, if you wrote it all down, there might be more, but cumulatively per minute with mom, there's more in this.
Okay.
I would guess. I do know that I have to watch on subtitles because every time I tried figuring out what she said right before Miles said, "Is that Spanglish?" Because I don't get it. That's the one moment I still don't get in the whole film. I was like, what did she? Okay. She said like 2 words, and I don't know what they were, and I don't know if his question is that Spanglish an insult or not. I don't.
Or if he's just like, wait, is that an English word? Is that a Spanish word? What are you trying to tell me? Kind of thing.
I if I had to bet, I'm guessing he's mocking her for something, but because I don't know what she says, I just don't understand it. Great segue into, did you understand what that first cough on the screen was? Or were you late to the movie?
I was not late to the movie. I don't remember a cough though.
All right, so before those like Columbia Pictures and Sony credits start, there is in the bottom right corner of the screen an on-screen like cough animation that looks in the spider. You know when when it says "boom" in comics.
Oh, like a comic book, like yeah.
Yeah, there's a little splash of that. Apparently, I didn't know the second thing I'm going to share with you, so don't quote me on it. But I know from the commentaries of 22 Jump Street that in the theater mix, they put right before the credits start a cough in the back right corner of the theaters. So if you're sitting down in the back right corner of the movie theater, let's pretend there's a aisle behind you or whatever, right before the credits started, you'd hear and just assume that the person behind you coughed. And apparently they did it again with Spiderverse, Into the Spiderverse. I don't know if that happened with Into the Spiderverse. I don't know if this applies, but I know that they had to go through so many levels of approval in Sony to have that cough there. And at the end of the day, they were like, I don't think it's disrespect. I think it was over like the first credit or something. It's like, I don't think it's disrespectful to the logo, but you're not allowed to put that in the home mix. And I get it. They were imagining someone with like your setup with surround sound. And then right before the movie starts, it goes like thinking that someone's in their home. So I love that they found a way to, I still don't know if there's a sound mix because I've never sat in the back right corner watching this movie. But at least now they've got it burned in forever. You'll see it the next time you watch it. Sorry to tease you back to cinema. Yeah.
That's super interesting. I mean, there was quite a bit of comic booky logo, not so much logos, but like titles and stuff like that, and they would put a lot of like in this, but it's always super quick. And when this movie is such a artistic masterpiece that everything is popping and colors and splash and everything else, that a lot of times it's really hard to read those except for like the big titles when they introduce like a city or a planet or a world or whatever.
It was perfect for the first Vulture fight when Miguel says, like, I don't know what he says. He has a bottomless wallet. And like in the corner is like, bottomless wallet can have a bunch of shit in there. Doesn't matter. But that worked for the first viewing. So it wasn't exposition like Miles saying or Gwen saying, "What is that? Please exposit to me."
Yeah, please tell me, even though I have an idea of what you're talking about based on the title of this. But yeah, I mean, so some of that stuff was hard to read at first because of everything's just popping, everything's like so colorful, and so I'm excited to watch it on this movie on a smaller screen or at least a screen that I can pause and kind of like slow it down a little bit and kind of catch some of that stuff in the background. Because I can imagine.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I can imagine until I'm able to do that, I will never catch all the background Spider-Man things that are happening when they go to HQ, stuff like that. I'm sure that we are missing so much of this movie, and I'm sure you going 4 or 5 times have missed some of the stuff in the background that we won't be able to see until we can, frame peek it a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, and until then, you can go check out New Rockstar's 2 videos about him. But there was even that one scene that in the Real Blend podcast, Lord and Miller joked they put that in because the scene in because you wouldn't be able to catch everything until you were watching at home, which was the all right. Certain actors and actresses that I want to shout out, but I will in a second. The one Spider Woman who comes up with the shawl or scarf, or I don't know how to say it, when they're entering, and she says, "Did you spot them?" or something. And Spider Woman, the pregnant Spider Woman, is she still pregnant? No, I don't think she is. She's either having delivered her baby because she's got what I still got from my first baby. A little bit of a stomach pouch, or her hubby is so hot that she's already knocked up again, which honestly would be a bit I'd be down for. Like, she's just popping out a new Spider baby every 10 months because her husband is corny, but so hot. Okay, so there are so many cast members who come up for just like a moment, like Spider Bite. This isn't a moment, but that was the woman who was in she was in The Hate U Give, and she was in the Bodies. I'm
gonna mispronounce her name, and I apologize because it kind of looks like Amanda, but it's got an L at the end of it.
I just learned that. That's
Amandla, I would assume, and Stenberg.
Yep, and then Gwen's Peter is the main guy in The Boys, the twerpy guy, not Carl Urban.
You're talking about the
Huey.
Okay. Andy Samberg is in this movie.
Yep, and he's going to be in the next one as well. He was Ben Reilly. Okay, you say something.
I mean, I don't want to, because I think I know where this is kind of leading, so I don't want to say the one that excited a lot of people. I know in the theater that I watched in, a lot of people were very excited.
But thank you.
Yeah. So I have a feeling I know where this is going, but
fun fact that every person who's mentioned it has said, but Peter Sohn, the voice of Genki, is the director of the upcoming Elementals, and he's also voiced multiple characters in Pixar movies. There's one more that Oh, that's right. Spider UK. That was the woman with the scarf that I said. She's Sophia Barclay from from Ted Lasso. The spoilers for season 3, but also I only thought of that connection the day that this episode came out, but she is the surprise sister to Roy Kent in season 3. She's the woman who not stitches up, but takes care of Dr. Fieldstone and says you can't go home if you have a concussion. And the day that was revealed in season 3, my daughter and I rewatched that episode, that earlier one with Dr. Fieldstone, and I was like, wait, earlier we see a doctor who skin color looks close to Roy. And then later he's like, she's an ER doctor. She always gets, because someone gets a knife stuck in her. I was like, but Phoebe, okay, but it's probably not her because Phoebe is so white. So I'm like, I'm just being insane. And then it happened. I was like, I'm not being insane. I mean, I am, but also it was I scared my daughter.
We could probably do a 3-hour episode of just that last episode if we just sat down and broke down every callback in the last episode, because I'm pretty sure they make a callback to just about every episode in the series. or in seasons 1 and 2 in that last episode. So we could do a whole thing on that.
I actually need a break, which is insane for me to be saying.
All right. So the person then got a lot of applause and cheers.
Insomniac Spider-Man.
Insomniac Spider-Man.
Actually, I do want to say that before leading up to yours, because there was a group of like 6 dudes to my front right, and I saw it Thursday, 3 p.m. in IMAX, who just lost their dang mind when Insomniac Spider-Man came on, and then I and a few others lost my mind when this happened.
And that was when Childish Gambino, or AKA, he's got like 4 different
Donald
names.
Glover.
Donald Glover came on because
I think that's the 2 names.
I think there's a third one too.
Ooh, I didn't know this.
Because I think he also raps under a different name too. Because part of his music is he molds his lifestyles together into one. So some of his albums are him as one person and another person. But it was funny because he originally pitched to be the first Miles Morales back in the day, and it kind of got canceled.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of funny that he brings it all back because he makes a call reference to that in that's season 2 of the Community or season 3 of the Community.
So
that was all breaking, and then ended up not getting the part, and then filmed that season of the Community, whether it was 2 or 3.
Yeah. So if I'm remembering correctly, it was season 2, episode 1. If I'm remembering correctly from what Donald Glover said, someone tweeted when they were casting for the Amazing Spider-Man, "Hey, maybe Peter." And I don't think, Miles didn't exist at this point, I believe, because that was a decade ago. They're like, maybe Peter can, you're going, the way he said this is going to sound racist if you think I'm phrasing it like this. He said they were saying that the next Spider-Man movie was going to be darker. So maybe Peter can be darker. So they said, what about Donald Glover? He's pretty nerdy. This was what I think around season 1 of Community was going. He seems like he would be a really good Peter, and he retweeted what he just thought it was a funny thing. It's like, hey, yeah, I'd be Peter Parker. And then the internet just took that and ran with it. It was like, Donald Glover, Peter Parker, Donald Glover, Peter Parker, Donald Glover. So that didn't happen. And then Brian Michael Bendis, he said, I believe he said it was inspired by his children, Brian Michael Bendis is white, his children are not. He was doing the Ultimate Comics, so he chose to do Miles Morales and was inspired by to show his children, who are people of color, that anyone can be Spider-Man. They could be Spider-Man. They could be like, as an inspiration to them. And I think he might have been inspired by the whole Donald Glover thing. So then after that, that's what led to, or at least the campaign led to him wearing the Spider-Man shirt in the beginning of season 2 Community. And I know that because season 3 starts with a wild ass intro that doesn't fit. But we got a panning shot of everyone having in their own places. Like Annie woke up in her bed. Jeff was like already doing crunches upside down, inverted from like a bar and then Donald Glover's Troy gets up in the Spider-Man shirt, which everybody already knows was in Spiderverse. So in Uncle Aaron's apartment, and did Spiderverse come out after Homecoming or before?
Must have came out. I think it's after.
Yeah, after, because then of course they keep running with this, and they used Donald Glover in Homecoming 1, which we talked about in the tier list, where he was like, "Nah, man, I don't want those weapons in my neighborhood. I got a nephew," which showed that Miles is in the
Homecoming came out in 2017. Spider-Verse came out in 2018.
Gotcha. Man, Donald Glover's life. I mean, he earned it. I'll straight up just say, let's start with he fucking earned this whole life by every fucking step of the way. Back when he was only in Derek Comedy, as far as I knew, He was already amazing, but now that he's earned this life 10 times over, his life is fucking amazing. Like, it must be so cool. Like, you want me to voice Miles Morales in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon? Cool. Oh, you want me to come in as the Prowler for a little cameo? Cool. Oh, you're gonna use my footage from Community when we were referencing it in the first one? Cool. Oh, the next one you want me, and I'm gonna be like, and what were you saying? He was pitching himself as the original Miles, and then they changed to a cooler. I mean, it would have been fucking cool either way.
I think it would have been cool either way. He has such a way of like the comedic timing that I think it would have worked perfect. I think it would have been a little goofier than it is now, where Miles would have been a little bit more quippy, a little bit punnier. But I think it would have killed it. All
right, this is the last time I want to be thinking about what could happen in Beyond the Spider-Verse, because I don't want to get in love with some other idea and somehow. But it being called Beyond the Spider-Verse, I wonder if we're going to just go full live action at one point. Like, maybe not like everyone's live action, but they're in a fully live action world. And if Donald Glover could come in as the original Miles Morales, that one, I'm sure someone would nitpick it, but fuck it. If he could come in as the first Miles Morales, that could mean we'd have a whole movie with a live action Donald Glover in the Spider-Verse. And of course, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, dude, we got you for 2 evenings. If we had you as Miles, we'd need to use you for more. We would need to. So what do we got? Or probably actually 20 minutes. What can we do in 20 minutes? You have to be sitting. You got to be the bad guy. We can't say that we caught. Well, no, they could have.
They had jailed other Spider-Mans.
Yeah, they jailed the Insomniac Spider-Man. So statement withdrawn. So I guess they could have still worked. But why would he need to be jailed? Insomniac Spider-Man was now that's interesting. Oh, that's right. I think the video game characters next to Insomniac Spider-Man, and Insomniac Spider-Man was not technically jailed. He wasn't in the whoop thing. He was just chilling because he's a good Spider-Man. But next to him was the Green Goblin from like a PS1 or Game Boy Spider-Man game, like 9 pixels, essentially.
8 or 16-bit.
16-bit, but like if you're watching the movie from your perspective, he's to the right of Insomniac Spider-Man. I only know that because of New Rockstars telling me. I still worth it for him, for all the villains cheering Miles Spider-Man, and then you just seeing him and all the other ones go boo to the others.
And then we got another moment of the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other when he says that Spider-Man's coming through, Sector 4 or whatever, and everybody like looks around and starts pointing at each other. So that was pretty funny. I mean, I laughed pretty hard. It was done really well, and like just like spot on. I don't think they could have changed. I don't think you could change that scene and make it any better.
I know people have talked about the escape sequence.
Yeah, when he's actually cloaked on whatever Spider-Man that comes to the door's back.
Yeah. I know some people have said, like, why didn't he go invisible sooner? And I think you could have done it with what I'm about to say and had some invisibility and have it still work. That'd probably be the smarter one in a real life situation. But I think that him like hiding on that other side, he knew he wasn't gonna like be able to get out of that whole building just hanging on the back of another Spider-Man. I think he was play hiding in that moment so that he could make all the other spider people who don't know that he has invisibility powers believe that he's trying to escape instead of just trying to lure them away.
Yeah, because that's all he was trying to do. He's just trying to lure them away and try and get everybody to the other side so that way he could do the go home machine,
Yeah.
go back to a world that's not actually his, because he got bit by a spider from a different world. So he goes back to that world and not necessarily his world, where his dad died instead of his uncle. And yeah,
like this is a movie where we need to have moments that are not realistic in real life. So I'm not going to say that this is a criticism, because it's definitely not, but it is interesting thinking about that sequence of like, okay, if this was real life, what would be the smartest thing to do? Which I would probably say be invisible for most of that before you jump out of the window, and then like play like your invisibility failed, and be like, oh no, I don't know, tap your they don't fucking know how your invisibility works, and then jump out the window, have them all follow, get on that train, lure them all away. And then when he's like taking the power from Miguel, he's like, you're not stopping me from getting to the moon, and then like hit him off you, go invisible, then jump off the train, go back to the go home machine, and then let Spider Bite be like, oh, you're halfway to the moon, Miguel, but it's powering up for no reason. Then Miguel can't even get back to almost fix it, or not fix it, stop it. That if so, word to the wise, anyone, if you end up with superpowers and the ability to turn invisible and you go to another dimension, just be a little smarter than Miles. But for the movie, it works because, of course, you know, it's such a good moment when Peter B. Parker was like, so he did have a plan. Because actually, that's another compliment I want to give this sequence, because when Miguel is fighting him, he's like, you've got nowhere to run. You have no plan. And he's like, I have a plan. I just haven't told you yet. That sounds so much like, what was the moment in the first movie when he's like, he was faking like he could do it, do something. And he's like,
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it sounds like typical teenager. Like, I've got a plan, but I'm not going to tell you what that plan is. Okay, yeah. You don't have a plan. No, I have one, but I'm not telling you. I don't want you to ruin my plan.
I'll have to rewatch Into the Spider-Verse sometime. Cry for me, like pray for me that I have to. But it's definitely referencing some moments in the earlier one where he's like, I know, I just haven't told you. It's probably with Uncle Aaron, where he's like, I'm laying, when they're talking about the girl. It's like, any girls you're interested in? Like, Smart Girls is where it's at. He's like, oh yeah, I just haven't talked to, I think it was something in there. Anyway, it's definitely a reference to the first one, and I loved that they used that and tricking us into thinking it's just a reference or just typical teenage bullshit. But no, boom. All right. The reveal at the end, Earth 42. When did you know?
I wasn't really thinking that hard into it. I was just so engrossed with the visual aspect and the vibe that movie was. I wasn't thinking too deep into it. So I didn't know until it got revealed.
Till he glitched.
And then they kind of explained it a little bit, and I was like, oh, that 100% makes sense.
Yeah, I know some people, I think like Shifreless Productions or something, called it a little earlier, but I thought that was so perfect, because when I was watching it the first time, I was like, I just thought it was hilarious that she didn't know who Spider-Man was. And then my brain, how it is, of course, like as it goes, is like, oh wait, they messed up, because unless she just were supposed to believe she wasn't paying attention in the first movie, Jefferson does say, baby, you know how I feel about Spider-Man. It's like, so I guess technically she could be like, yeah, your work, blah, 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 Spider-Man. Ooh, such tough problems at work, getting help from a superhero. Maybe but wait, Comics Con. I know she's messing it up on because she doesn't know it. Like my daughter's grandmother, who's Hispanic, says Mac and Donald's. Okay. But Miles would know. He has collectibles. Which, by the way, when that happened, me and a few other people went, when she ripped it open. But I was like, wait, he's not. And then he glitched. I was like, oh! Like, so, chef's kiss, perfectly done. I love it.
Yeah, I like. I kind of going back to how the travel and everything. I like that everybody has a. There's certain canon events that have to happen, and that Miles stopped one in the Indian world, which is going to lead to the destruction of that world, which kind of sucks. But I like how when you go into a world and start changing canon events, that world basically just implodes on itself, which I thought was a really neat idea.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, obviously it doesn't need to happen right away like the Indian movie or the Indian planet. Not the Indian planet. They just drop into a hyper-developed India, which I have to keep reminding myself because they do make a joke that the British stole all our stuff. It's not like Star Wars where the whole planet is that thing, but I mean, in my defense, they did trick us into thinking he was falling into like a continent, and
because he kept falling through all the layers.
But like with Miguel O'Hara's one, obviously it didn't cause a black hole the second he took that guy's spot, the father's spot, and with Miles, if everything Miguel said is 100% true and not just creating a theory and then ascribing it to everybody. Miles has been Spider-Man for over a year. He filled the spot of Peter for a while and like stopped the collider from going off, which I imagine if the collider successfully went off, that would have created a black hole or whatever, destroyed the world. But eventually the ripples, reference to Spirited, ripples. The ripples caught up with Spot. So I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I like it too. That was really well done. Yeah. Overall, I like this movie a little bit more than Into the Spider-Verse. There are some things I like better in the last movie. There are some things I like better in this movie, but I think overall this is a more entertaining movie. A little bit deeper. I'm excited to watch it a second time. I'm excited to order it as soon as it comes out and start kind of pixel peeping everything.
I already pre-ordered Best Buy Steelbooks. I don't know for me yet, because obviously the easiest thing to say is the first one was a complete movie. This is a two-parter. But I do like what they did. Lord and Miller, in their interview with the Real Blend podcast, said that they, after announcing part 1 and 2, they really worked to make this a contained story, and they think they succeeded. I think that's half true. And like some reviews that I've seen, they say if you track their character arcs, this is a complete character arc. Like, that's true. When Miles comes back, he says that he beat them all. And for Gwen, at the end, she's like, I never found a band I liked, so I made my own. I think what they did successfully is they did a part 1 of a 2-part story at the same time as making Gwen and Miles kind of co-leads of this film.
Yeah.
I think that's why, like, right after Spider-Verse came out and everyone was raving about it, it was announced that they were developing a Gwen spinoff, a Spider-Gwen spinoff, and a Miles sequel. And I think what they ended up doing is the same thing they did with X-Men First Class, which is they took a movie they were going to do, X-Men Origins Magneto. Any guesses why they didn't do that film? And they rolled those details into a main X-Men film. So that, I think that's why we have the 20 minutes with Gwen
at the beginning. It felt it didn't feel off, but I could imagine people that have not seen the first one go there and expecting a Spider-Man movie and get, Gwen for the first 20 minutes are probably pretty confused.
Yeah. Ooh, that's one thing. All right. So before I finish talking about the structure of this film, I wanted to talk about Gwen because when the first Spider-Verse movie came out, people talked about the post-credit scene and be like, huh, weird. Like, this is the only world where it actually changes the art style of a spider person. In Miles's world, everyone comes and they retain their own art their art style in Miles's world, or at least that's what we thought. And then in the post-credit scene, Miguel clearly has his own art style, goes into the Spider-Man 60s, or I don't know, you were pointing first. No, I'm pointing, that whole bit. And then his art style changes. This one, Gwen in her own world and Gwen in Miles's world, she has two kind of different art styles. Like, it's close.
She's got more of like a colored pencils shading type of very blue, very pink shading in her world. And then when she comes to Miles's world, she basically becomes the same art style as Miles. But nobody else really does that either, because it doesn't, I don't think anybody else does that in this movie.
Yeah, because
when everybody goes to HQ, everybody's got their own art style and everything.
Yeah, so I think I could see that there's like there's just inconsistency. Some worlds make you conform to their art style, maybe, I don't know. But with that all said, I really, really want to see Miles go to Gwen's world and see Miles's art style change and no one else's change, maybe even, so that we can have a visual moment where like they are the same, like. And I just want, so the way it was described, her world, the way everyone described it to Haley Steinfeld is, your world is a mood ring. So that's why the art style changes so much. And to harken back to the mid-credit scene of the last video, the tier list, on my fourth watch, I like gentle cried 4 times. Like, as in, I mean, I'm watching and I just know the positive emotions that are going to flow over me. And then I just start like crying happily. So it wasn't like Amazing Spider. It was like, drama! And I had seen it 3 times before, so it wasn't a surprise. But so now I've got a tie, which at the time of the tier list, I was being honest. I hadn't cried in Across the Spiderverse. But gosh, I'm so excited for Beyond the Spiderverse. I'm so excited. I said in the tier list, but they really did make Rio her full character here. And like a moment that I'm not familiar with, but that people talked in interviews that I love on a rewatch, or not interviews, is when Miles says, yeah, whatever. And then like you see a pause on Rio and Jeff's side, and then you see a pause with Miles. He's like, and then she goes, whatever. It's like, and what I didn't understand what people talked about in their reviews was like that Puerto Rican mom thing of saying the exact wrong word and knowing that just because you said it, you're gonna get yelled at. And I guess whatever is one of those words. I loved it. Also, I want to add, when Jeff is yelling at Miles and the music goes out and he's like, what do you want to tell me? And then Miles might say something, and seeing the context, he decides to say, you know what, never mind. And he walks away with his hood on. I love that they added that for one simple reason. I grew up in a cop's household, and I know for a fact that if a lot of cops are like one of the cops in my household, at the very least, at least one of them in my household, I'm not going to name them, seeing an African-American 15-year-old just say, never mind, like that, or just seeing them walk down the street with a hood up like that, they'd be like, oh, that kid's a gangbanger. Which is, we know that's a stupid fucking idea. But I think because of that stereotype, we haven't seen a lot. I don't remember many African-American characters having a hood up like that. And it just being, no, they're not. They're just a nice person. They're just they're just wearing a hood right now. So I liked adding that, so that maybe they can start putting a crack in some what's the metaphor I'm trying to make? Like a little crack in the armor of that argument of that bias. And I also love that at the end of the movie, the hoodie that he grabs really quick before he reveals that he's Spider-Man has green and purple because it's the Prowler's colors.
Oh, I was like, wait, green and purple. I was like, oh, yep, got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and everyone, like, we were being hinted that the Prowler was Miles because the reason Miles is tied up to a punching bag is because the other Miles had that idea. In the first Spider-Verse, Miles tied up Peter B. Parker to the punching bag. What is it? Uncle Aaron wouldn't have thought of that. That was a total Miles thing. And yeah, I was going to mention another theory, but I don't want to color people's ideas of the sequel. And it's not my theory.
I am excited for the theory, or not a theory. I'm excited for the next movie. I just hope. I know it's going to be a while. I know they're already talking about
less than a year.
I think it was like winter of 2024. I think is when the next one was slated for. But I don't want them to really rush it. I'd rather them take their time and we get a good, solid movie than trying to rush out a sequel.
March 29th, 2020. Wait, what?
Yeah, that seems super early.
2024. There's a moment, really, everybody go see the Real Blend interview with the musician, but they asked about very gently about Beyond the Spider-Verse. They were like, if you had to handle all this, they were trying to ask it in a way that there would be no spoilers. Like, how are you even thinking about Beyond the Spider-Verse? And he was like, I'm so tired. All of us are so tired. So if you've noticed in interviews, we kind of have an agreement that we're not going to talk about Beyond the Spider-Verse for a month. So in solidarity, I'm going to skip that question because we are so tired.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, especially when he said that there's only him and his assistant for doing the entire score, the entire music of the movie. And then you've got all the animators that are doing all the different animations throughout this movie. And then you've got to have another group of like CGI to bring in the real world stuff and kind of mix some of that animation together. Cause I'm sure it's hard to mix animation, like the free cells of everything. But yeah, I can imagine those guys worked, and I hope that especially with
Spider-Punk.
Yeah. I hope they get the recognition they deserve. I hope they get the monetary recognition that they deserve as well too, because this movie has been pretty successful, and I expect it to be very successful in the grand scheme of things. And
shout out to, I think, Nando V Movies, but if anyone was wondering how Spider-Punk left his watch behind but gave Gwen a watch, and I teased that it still made sense. So I'm full circle. This is intended. I'm so good at this. It's not.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I'm just lucky that I remembered.
We play this. You should see the script that we're reading from.
No, Brad has enough integrity. It's all me because my memory is garbage. No, someone pointed out that Hobie taking all the stuff off the walls, where he's like, I bet this doesn't even do anything. And Miles says, it might have before you ripped it out of the walls.
Oh, yeah. As they're walking down the hallway, he's ripping off like parts off the machines and stuff.
So the reason he's here is, well, one, he said, I think in that actual same moment, Miles is like, why are you even here if you don't want to be? He's like, just looking out for my drummer. So that means he's there to watch out for Gwen, which is like, dude, if you both have been physical, but you're casual, you're such a good person, just in general. You're not a good dude. You're a good person. You're just like, I like this person as a person, and I'm going to look out for them because I know shit's not right. I mean, again, another moment where he's like, just hear what you're signing up for before, or like, don't sign up before you know what the mission is or whatever. Like, he's not for this. He knows he wants Miles to be as Well, that sounds egotistical. I was going to say he wants Miles to be as good as him. But so he's still punk rock because he joined the group to understand the science of the watches. And as soon as he figured it out how to do it himself, he abandoned it, made his own so that he can't be monitored by Miguel or tracked by Miguel. And he must have at least made 2, because for him to go to Gwen's universe and then get back to his own, he had to have his own watch so that he could leave the other one behind with a little note on it. I love Hobie so much. He's my favorite new Spider. Spider India is a close second because I know we've all seen it, but and then she's perfect and I love spending time with. Hello, Inspector. I don't know, Inspector Singh. This is your daughter, and I do not know her.
Even though his hair in non-Spider-Man and in Spider-Man are the exact same.
That too, you can. Oh yeah. But it's like, I get up and I don't work out because I don't want to get too buff. I'm naturally, I do nothing with my hair. Nothing? And maybe a little coconut oil. It's like, that was good. Because I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. And mainly because people who make movies these days, they've just been educated by the movies they see. So, when all you see is, let me put it this way, when all you see is the secondary character, the main supporting character, a woman, be captured all the time, let's say the Raimi Spider-Man movies, you just unconsciously start thinking, okay, so the female lead needs to be captured, the male lead, blah, blah. So I wouldn't be surprised if the people in charge were like, okay, we got an Indian character, they're probably they're Peter Parker, or their Spider-Man, who is nerdy, so let's do extra nerdy. And then, but yeah, because of everyone's input, they did something different and made him cool. Like, it's fine to have a cool Spider-Man. Everyone's a cool Spider-Man. Like, you think Nick Cage's Spider-Man wasn't cool? He's fucking cool. Betty Parker, even Peter Porker, they're cool in their own ways.
And I'm trying to remember what the girl's name is with the
Gwen.
The other one. With the spacesuit. That was like the anime one.
Penny Parker.
Is it Penny? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was something cooler, but yeah.
Hey, I don't know. I'm trying to defend pennies.
Yeah.
Another cool casting was a handy capable person played the handy capable Spider-Man. And how you make such an impression in 3 seconds? Do you think spider people use comedy as a crutch? Get it? Crutch. It's like, that had to be an input from a handy capable person, either her, like, as the joke, or from the comics with that, because I, as someone who does not need crutches to operate every day, I'd never come up with that on my own. I wouldn't have think of that. And 2, if I did, I'd be like, oh no, that's a bad taste because I don't need crutches. Like, I'm not even going to rate that. That's a bad, kind of like with John Wick 4, where I was like, oh, Kane, are we going to be, he's not able to see. Like, that's not something I would say publicly except to shame myself for my dumb brain. And I loved it. It felt, the way they make this feel so real in every moment with every little person. Hell, even in the car chase portion of the chase, where the guy gets scared by Miles, and then Miguel lands on a woman and she goes like this. I didn't catch it the first couple times, but Miles says snitch, and I think with whatever flip or thwip that he does, it just says snitch. in it, like how they said bagel when they threw the bagel and hit the guy in the last one.
Oh, I mean, I noticed the bagel one because you told me about it. But yeah, I didn't recognize it this time.
I didn't notice that until people online pointed it out. But all right. I feel like we're winding down, and if we wind down and we don't actually talk about the spot, that's kind of...
yeah.
I can't. Maybe I can't blame the marketing people. No, I'm just kidding.
I thought he was a solid villain with a solid. I don't want to say solid motivation. He had a good motivation.
Understandable
motivation that I feel like was underutilized just a little bit. They used him as more of a way to like explain the multiverse of everything, and not so much as like here's what he wants to do, and then just kind of falls off from there. So I mean, I wish if my one criticism of this movie would probably be make him stronger, make him a little bit more well defined, and make him more of a threat to everybody, and not so much just Miles Morales for like half of this movie, and then the second half of the movie is just like basically irrelevant, because then we get brought into Spider-Man 2099, and that he becomes like the pseudo bad guy for the rest of the movie.
Which, as we said, we've scripted this ahead of time, which naturally brought us back to that other hanging thread that I pointed earlier of talking about the structure. First half of the movie is the Spot escalation, and then the second half is Miguel. What I liked about that, well, one, the fact that skin, and that he actually like can't get work, and that he gets mocked, and it is Spider-Man's fault technically. Like, I thought that was great. That was a great start. Definitely felt like a villain of the week. But as he kept going, one, I love moments like in Spider-Man India, his world, where they actually try valiantly, like, no, you're not a joke. I'm sorry I said that. Like, right, team? And everyone's like, yeah. And then, of course, Spider-Punk is like, I don't believe in comedy. Just kidding. Like, in other movies, that would have been enough. Like, I'm sure there was something similar with the first Puss in Boots movie with Humpty Dumpty. Like, he got redeemed when he knew he wasn't a joke in Puss's eyes. But here, it's like, oh no, of course that wouldn't work. This is the last moment before he's about to go in and level up again, and he's not just going to be convinced to do a whole 180 off 4 random people or 3 random people and one arch nemesis of him saying one thing nice. Well, the Spider-Punks is a little questionable. If you wanted to analyze it so much, be like, so you're not saying I'm a joke, or you are? But I really liked it. I think, yeah, that they really should have. I don't know how you point out that this is a part 1 without saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because then
I had zero idea walking into this movie.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I was a little let down at the end of the movie, and I was just like I didn't know this is one of 2. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been so jacked, because I was expecting a resolution and didn't get the full resolution that I wanted. So,
yeah. Maybe they should have added a villain like Helvetica, which I loved. I'll see you in Helvetica. And he's like, oh, bold. Maybe they should have added a villain who's like meta, like the meta person's like, and I don't know, mentioned, I'll see you in Beyond the Spiderverse or something. I don't know.
They break the fourth wall all the time, so I mean, they could do something like that and get away with it, but yeah, I don't know if that's the way you want to go with that. But
oh, I know the perfect spot. Maybe after Donald Glover goes boo with everybody, just have somebody next to him that's like meta, and it's like, oh man, the credits are soon. They're not going to finish up this story in time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like, I'm sure people on a first viewing wouldn't believe that. They're like, oh, that's a weird thing to say. well, we got enough time for an ending, like 20 more minutes. But at least that would put the breadcrumb in the back of your mouth. I don't know what I was doing with my hand. But yeah, there's. Ooh, one thing I wanted to mention was if anyone watches the in review, I think rewatch for Into the Spider-Verse on Kind of Funnies, they had the guest who was the animator of the Spider-Man, or not the animator, the designer, and he said he designed every single Spider-Man except for like 8 of them in this whole movie, and I think he worked on the first one, but he does the in review with them, and it's not an interview with the guy, but you'll get some cool little tidbits. And they also did that before this movie came out, so they kind of had to be non-spoilery. Yeah,
I mean that I'm sure that alone took a large amount of work.
Yeah,
just to get that. I mean, because there are probably, I don't know, I haven't looked. I'm going to say 75 to 100 different Spider-Man throughout this movie.
180.
Oh, wow. Even more, way more.
I only know that because he said it. All right. So I know. Do you want to look up what the box office right now is? Because I'll say the budget. It's not confirmed, but there's been estimates, or the word is that this is $100 million film, which is. I'm going to look up the budget of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania just to
175. I don't know. I'm guessing. I haven't looked up that. I'm going to say 175 to 200.
All right. Do you have the box office so far for this?
Yeah.
200 million. 200 million for that film. That was the budget of that film compared to this half as much. That's wow.
Because I've got the number on Wikipedia, but I think it's more than that.
All right, look up Box Office Mojo, and I'm just going to say Into the Spider-Verse's box office so that we can celebrate what you're going to say, because the total box office worldwide for Into the Spider-Verse was $384.3 million. And I've said this. I said in the last one, the only reason I like that Morbius exists is because that took the bottom spot of all the Spider-Man movies box office. It was a crime that Into the Spider-Verse was at the bottom of the list before then. I've heard reviews say as much, that they saw it was animated and they thought little of it, and then they saw it at home and they're like, I made a massive mistake not seeing this in the theater. But what's the current box office for Across the Spider-Verse?
Trying to figure out how to do this worldwide. I mean, I can see the domestic pretty easily. It's right there. If I would just read down the line, domestically, about 160 million. Internationally, about 100 or about 88 million, which brings it up to roughly $248 million
so far
in one weekend, basically one full week, because it came out Thursday night, and we are recording this the day that we do the tier list, also Thursday night.
I mean, if we rewound 1 week at this time, the time that we're recording, which is 7:52 p.m. Chicago, 8:52 p.m. Florida, I would be watching it for a second time. So I've seen it 5 times in less than a week.
Twice in 1 day.
So good. Yeah, the first day. I knew we were going to rewatch it, so we just watched it twice on Thursday. We got ice cream in between. It was nice, but good, because yeah, that's all I gotta say. Good.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see where this lands. And
yeah, $250 million at this time. I would imagine by the time this leaves theaters, it'll probably be 600, 700.
I hope.
I don't know. I'm gonna walk that back a little bit, because we have
Transformers just took all the Dolby screens.
Transformers. After that, there's Oppenheimer the next weekend, and then Indiana Jones and Oppenheimer, because that comes out.
I don't know about Indiana Jones, but I do know that Oppenheimer. I think Mission Impossible Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 might come out before. I don't know. I know that there was some rumor that Tom Cruise is trying to get IMAX screens because Christopher Nolan has an exclusive 3 weeks for Oppenheimer in IMAX. Anyway, I hope it at least gets $500 million, and I hope that this movie's budget is so dang low because everyone was paid scale, but given really good points, which is box office grosses. Like, so I hope everybody on this movie was able to pay rent by a hair, and now we're just going to be fucking millionaires. Like, everyone who worked for a long time on this, especially, and everyone who gave one line, I hope they get a sweet $50,000 check at the very least. Everyone from his comedy A Crutch to
so Indiana Jones comes out at the end of the month, June 30, Friday, June 30th.
Dead Reckoning. Oh, never mind.
Dead Reckoning is the July 12th, and then Oppenheimer is July 21st. So I mean, we got a lot of movies coming up here in the next month or so. So I'm gonna say this reaches 650 box office.
Okay.
I think it'll be really, really tough, but I think worldwide we can get there.
True, worldwide especially. Yeah, as long as this makes, it's gonna make more than Into the Spider-Verse. I'm just happy it's not going to be lower on the list, and the fact that it's going to make more than Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, if Into the Spider-Verse making $384 million was enough to greenlight 2 immediate sequels, like, woo! What are we going to have after this? There was even talk that Lord and Miller were going to be in charge of like television live action Spider-Man stuff for Sony, which I don't know if that's still going to be relevant, but whatever. Oh, and couldn't wrap up without mentioning this. Apparently some teenager did like a viral Lego Spider-Man trailer, and I thought when I heard the story that it was Into the Spider-Verse, but a review that I was watching today showed stuff from Across the Spider-Verse and Lego. So whichever way it went, that teenager got hired to direct the Lego portion of this film, which
that's funny,
is just so fucking cool. Like,
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And this is kind of like I think someone did better de-aging for The Irishman online using deepfakes, and then they got hired by like Lucasfilm or someone. It's just so super cool to see like random internet creators doing cool shit being acknowledged by Hollywood, and not having that, oh well, we can't hire him, he's an internet creator, we gotta, well,
because I mean, what was it, Mando season 1, when they brought
that's what it is. That's why.
And then the people did better de-aging on like TikTok and stuff like that. They hired them to do the de-aging process for the second season.
That's what it was. See, my memory. This is why we need a script.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote one. I can't read, so I don't know.
Sorry, I just got so entertained by the tangent I went off in my own head, just imagining a reality where you can write, but you can't read, and I can read, but I can't write, and that's why we do a podcast together.
That'd be rough.
It would be one of those things of like, wait, how does that universe? No, it doesn't. All right, we'll just suspension of disbelief. Anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
No, I think I'm good.
I was totally, knowing the tier list time, I was like, are we going to talk for 5 hours about this film? We technically could if we went frame by frame, but
we missed the time. I'm sure there's more that we could have went through and picked apart, and compared and contrast against the last movie. We could do this for 5 hours if we wanted to, but I don't think either of us want to do that on a night like tonight.
We could do that with Review-a-thon if we ever get there, which segue. Stick around for the Review-a-thons of the Mission Impossible movies in anticipation and the run-up of Dead Reckoning Part 1. Those are going to be on Twitch first, and then they'll be ad-free on moviesaredope.com, and they'll be on YouTube and Spotify and everywhere you get your podcasts elsewhere. But that starts next Wednesday on the 12th, and on the 14th. And speaking of Wednesday the 14th, that's also when the spot giveaway happens. So click that link for the Instagram below. Hit a like button if the platform lets you, or leave a rating if that platform lets you, wherever you're listening or watching this. Thank you so much. I've been Brian at Movies Are Dope.
I'm Dr. Brad Octavius at Brad F912.
And we've got a special guest for the Mission Review-a-thons. We could talk about this movie for 5 hours, and we'll do that in the comments, or at least I will. I'm not going to promise that Brad's going to do that, because this is the only part of the whole video or podcast where I'm improving. Don't fact check that. And the recording, I'm checking with you before I do.
Oh, I'm good. Yep.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Surprise, another mid-credit scene. We forgot to put it on the tier list. So I've got the texts from Brad, because we just finished, and he said his ranking is S or S+, and it's above Spiderverse for him. For me, it's not above Into the Spiderverse, only because it is a complete story, and it does flow, as opposed to, how do I say this? The whole story flows completely, as opposed to this, which is more segmented. We have the Spot era of the story, and then we have the Spider Society era of the story, and it definitely is more of a split between the two halves. We switch gears from following Spot and dealing with that escalating issue, as well as this romance storyline that's being seeded between Miles and Gwen, and the music definitely solidifies that as an intention with Mona Lisa and Self-Love, but it is more, it's not a complete movie and a complete story, so it edges it out. Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse edges it out for me. But with that being said, I think averaged with Brad's, it then becomes before Into the Spider-Verse. So I'm gonna record myself changing the tier list and putting it over this part, and continue credits.
Let me see here. I'm just trying to find a way to soften this, because every time I put this down, you're gonna hear a clunk, and I don't want to clunky this shit up.
You need a coaster?
I do. Let me try that.
That's going in as the post-credit scene for the review.